Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2018 Subaru Outback Wagon, we're going to be showing you how to install the etrailer.com 7-way upgrade kit. But before we get into that, why don't you just take a minute, check this out, and talk about what it's going to accomplish. First and foremost, what this kit's going to do is give you a 7-way round trailer connector and a 4-way flat type connector. So both of the really common types you'll be able to use. But with the 7-way, you're not going to get all of the functions, all right? So with this particular setup, the way most people are going to use it is you'll have your lighting signals, so your turn signals, your brake lights, your tail lights, and a 12-volt auxiliary power, all right? So this will be used if, let's say, like our neighbor today, they have a trailer that has, a wireless brake controller. All right, so a lot of those wireless brake controllers, like the Kurt Echo, for example, all they need is that 12-volt power to run. They plug in here, and then that'll apply the trailer brakes. And then one of their other smaller trailers, I believe they said they have it wired up in a way to where it has a battery on it. And so when they're hooked up to this, it'll charge the battery. And so that's what a lot of people seem to use it for, primarily those wireless type brake controllers. But if you find yourself in a situation where maybe, let's say you have maybe a small pop-up camper or something, don't have brakes on it, but you have it hooked up a way to where you can charge up the battery while you're towing it, this will accomplish that. So it's pretty cool. You know, it's not used in a ton of scenarios, but if you find yourself in that situation, there's definitely an option available by using this. With that said, though, if you're trying to use a traditional type brake controller, okay, one that gets mounted to the dash or something similar to that, like a red arc, for example, those are going to need another input, the electric brake output. So there's another kit, if that's what you're trying to do, that you can use. It's the etrailer.com Universal Brake Controller Install Kit. Comes with a couple more ins and outs that'll allow you to complete that whole package. And be able to accomplish that. One thing you will need to actually make this kit work is the existing 4-way flat wiring. So if you have it from the factory, great, that'll work. If not, if you're like our customer here today, we use the Takancha 4-way kit because the eTrailer kit's going to plug into that and use that for some of its inputs and signals and whatnot. So you know, you really can't go wrong with any of them that we carry here. They're all going to get the job done and allow this to work in conjunction with that part. Other than that, you know, not really a whole lot to this. It gives you that 7-way and that 4-way flat connector you can use and gives you that 12-volt auxiliary power. So it's really all there is to it, honestly. As far as getting it installed, it's not bad. There's not a lot of stuff to hook up, really. It is just time consuming, having to mount it and run your wires and things like that. But if you'd like to see how that's done, feel free to stick around. We'll go ahead and hook it up together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the back of our Subaru. And first thing that we need to do is mount up our bracket here. That way we can get our connector plug in there and everything else. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. In our case, I used another bracket and was able to secure it kind of up behind our bumper. Here's a better look at the bracket that I use. It's just stuff that I had laying around, but I was able to secure it to our bulkhead here, the body of our vehicle, and attach our 7-way bracket to it. So this one does come included. All the other stuff you'll have to source separately. If you have a hitch like we do where it's more hidden, another way you could do this is to get a no-drill long bracket, clamp that around the hitch, and then actually bolt this to it. But like I said, since I had this stuff on hand, this is how I did mine. From there, we need to mount this up, so we'll just feed our wiring through. And then the 4-way flat, what I like to do, so this will slide in there, but sometimes it wants to come out kind of easy. So I like to slide that in as far as it'll go, and then bolt our 7-way down, and it kind of grabs it a little bit. And you take a bolt, feed that through. Then on the back side, you take a flat washer, a split lock washer, and a nut. And so I'll get all 4 of these going, 1 in each corner. So with that all secure now, you can take this end of our 4-way, and I'm going to cut this cap off. You won't be needing it. Take your existing 4-way wiring. So this is a Takancha wiring kit that we're using, but other brands will work too. I'll cut that off as well. And then I'm going to take some dielectric grease and put some in the terminals just to help keep corrosion at bay. Don't have to do this, but it'll help. And then these are just going to plug right into each other. After I made this connection, I put some electrical tape over it and a zip tie just to make it semi-permanent. And then we can take our black wire here. This does have a pre-attached butt connector on it that you can use to hook up to the bundle of black power wire that they give you in the kit. So this is one end of the power wire. I just kind of loosely ran it over here. This will work fine to pair them two together, but I'm going to change this one out for a heat shrink type butt connector. The ends seal up and just give it a little more protection against corrosion and whatnot. So I'm going to clip this one off, strip back the end of the insulation, twist the wires, put the butt connector over the bare end, and crimp it down. Grab the other end of the butt connector here, take the end of our power wire, put that in, crimp it down, and with it having the heat shrink ends, I'll come in with my heat source and seal them up. What I've done now is taken our white wire with the pre-attached string terminal. It's going to be a ground wire. And since it's kind of up here tight, I just went ahead and did it and have a better look at it like this as opposed to doing it in real time. But regardless, you take the included self-tapping screw. You want to secure this to a piece of the sheet metal to give us a good ground. So I did it through this bracket and through this. It's a little bit thicker and holds better. So got that done and tight. Then I took some of the zip ties and just bundled everything up, make a nice little package here. And from there, what we need to do is run our black power wire here. So this is it. And I went just kind of up and over this way into this corner. So here's our power wire, and bear with us here. It's just not a lot of space under here, especially on this Subaru. But either way, you're going to have to route this towards the front into the engine compartment. That way we can hook it up to a power supply. You want to avoid any hot or moving parts, or do your best at least. So our wire comes in behind the shield. There's a piece of it where it comes out, and you can use the zip ties to secure it along the way. It goes up and over our subframe, so it's kind of buried up there. Get up as high as you can away from all the moving suspension components, but it kind of starts to drop down right here, and I'll come back and clip all these ends off. But if you take this panel down, there's a handful of 12 millimeter nuts and bolts you can take out. Kind of drop this down. This is going to run along through here, and then I just zip tied it to the bottom of our frame rail there, where it continues forward, and then it's going to run right up through here, up along the firewall into the engine compartment. And the way you can get it up there is if you take a fish wire, so a coat hanger, a metal coat hanger that you straighten out, something along those lines, drop that down from the top, and then you can tape your wire to it and go back up top and pull it up into place. Makes it a lot easier to get it up into position. In the engine compartment, here's where our wiring comes on up. and it runs along through here. And we're going to run it to our breaker, which I've mounted up, which is this guy here. I just put it on this little bracket using the self-tapping screws to secure it. Go ahead and get rid of the nuts that are on the breaker. And carefully set them aside. We're going to cut our wire to length. So this wire, you know, this is running to the back of our 7-way. We're going to connect that to the silver post. So I'll get it pretty close here. Cut it to length, strip it back. Just like the butt connector, give it a twist. I'm going to put on a small ring terminal. Get that crimped down. That'll go over the silver post. Take the nut. Get that on it there. Get this snug down. And then the little bit of extra wire that we have, this needs to get routed over to the positive battery terminal. And the length is about perfect, actually. I don't think I'm even going to trim this up. But I'm going to attach, strip back the insulation, attach a large connector and a small one to the ends of it. Hook up the small end to our gold post and then run that over to our positive battery terminal. So I got that hooked up like we talked about, routed our wire over. And if you remove this red cap from the positive battery terminal, you can take a 12mm socket. We're going to remove this nut. And when I take this off, I like to just try to keep some pressure down on the wiring connector, just so our clocks and radios don't reset. Put the ring terminal over it, and then tighten the nut back down. Now we can test everything to make sure it's working properly. So I plugged in this small tester, which is what I recommend doing. And we have our 12-volt auxiliary power, so we know that's working. Try our left turn signal, our right turn signal, our brakes, and our running lights. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the etrailer.com 7-way upgrade kit on our 2018 Subaru Outback Wagon.